Game for today. We will have a decisive result. It is go time, and we've got all three big boards. It's like the Infinity Wars continues.
Did you say go time or goat time? Either way, two fantastic players, and it's actually Fabiano who blinks first, plays the Italian game, not the Spanish that we saw in the classical encounter. Magnus comes prepared. He brings his bishop out. Oh, this is so hard to predict. On paper, Magnus would be the favorite in any Armageddon game, right? But he's lost two out of his two Armageddons so far this tournament.
And he's lost them to Hikaru and to Wei. So far, Magnus Carlsen has prevailed against the youth in the tournament, taking down Gukesh and Arjun. But right now, he is up against Fabi, who has had a great run. He's at 8 points currently, just a point behind Magnus. I think both can be relieved with the result, what has happened before. Magnus given the position that he had, and Fabi given the tournament situation that he came in.
Right, and I can tell you that Fabi has gone in all guns blazing with this approach. Developing the bishop to this diagonal, positively encouraging Magnus to go g7, g5 at the right time. Magnus so far refraining from doing this, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Magnus is going to break that pin.
I'll tell you, if Fabi goes castle, we see g5 on the board.
Very possible if Fabi refrains. And earlier we were joking about the word lazy, how sometimes in chess it can be a compliment. And Magnus told me that rather than learning the chaotic lines after g5, I should play like a lazy chess player. The lazy approach is to actually trade off these bishops. And okay, he actually moves his knight over first. Maybe more ambitious from Magnus Carlsen. He's going to bring his knight across. Maybe g5 incoming as well. It feels like he's dodged Fabiano's opening prep. Slightly eating away at the time advantage as well. And I don't know what to expect now. It feels like Magnus knows what he's doing. Fabiano breaking in the center, pawn sacrifice. This pawn attacked 3 times, only defended twice, but yeah, he's hoping to blow open the center while the white rook can target the black queen and king.
Well, Fabi's hoping that if you take, he perhaps then trades the knight and then takes control of the center, so you don't lose the pawn that way, but you will lose the bishop pair. And it depends how you evaluate. Will we once again see the bishop pair advantage for Magnus against Fabi's big center, just like we saw in the classical? Magnus wants to keep the tension. He goes ahead with his knight. Fabi goes into a think.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen this plan before, but all these Italian games, we talked about it the other day, they all look so similar. And Fabiano needs to decide how to put pressure on black. g5, it's like a sword hanging over your head. It's going to happen at some point. And you need to be ready for it. Fabi just improves his rook. No time to think in Armageddon. You just have to trust your instincts, improve your pieces. Bishop coming out to pin the white knight now. Who do we prefer here in the studio? Early stages?
Yeah, it's too soon to call this one. I do like Fabi on the clock, and he continues to play fast, but that knight on f4 that Magnus has established with the potential g5 coming in, this is going to be spicy, And the player playing with black usually looks at keeping the position solid. But the way this one's brewing, I think we're in for a complete ride here.
Complete mess is going to be ensuing. Fabi getting ready to relocate the knight to e3, drive that bishop away, and perhaps even jump in with the knight into f5. You need to open up the position at some point. Okay, knight to g6. I think knight to g6 will have given Fabi like small victory points, because he doesn't have to worry about g7, g5 anymore.
Yeah, Magnus trades willingly here. Fabi has to decide to take with the queen and allow the central pawn to drop off, a pure pawn sacrifice, or to take with a pawn, but then his bishop is pretty much stuck the rest of the game. That's a famous pawn structure almost that Capablanca once won a famous game. So, okay, it is a sacrifice from Fabi. If Magnus gets one more move in castles, he should be totally fine. Is there something here and now for white?
I mean, you're looking at ideas like e5, but that square is so well defended by black. You've got 3 defenders, only 2 attackers. b7 would be hanging, but it just doesn't feel like the trade that you want here. If e5 doesn't work, how else can you put a threat to stop Magnus Carlsen from getting his king to safety?
Yes, and it's really difficult to see anything other than e5, because it's the only move that makes sense. Everything else feels like you're not fighting in the center. Knight to e5, castles is coming next from Magnus. And if Magnus just solidifies, he's simply a pawn up. Okay, so he takes, bishop takes pawn. Now rook d1.
Beautiful bishop at the center of the board, attacks it. You could fall back. You could also come with your knight to the center, knight e5. He reaches out, and I think he's about to play it. Hits the queen and the bishop. Bishop takes e5. Just looks like a move you don't want to make. You're down a pawn. You don't want to give up your bishop pair.
He saves his queen, Fabi, defends his bishop in the process. Magnus retreats. I love how Magnus planted his knight in the center before White was able to blow it open with e5 himself. And again, just one more move away from the beautiful castles here for Magnus. When he can breathe a sigh of relief, he's done the hard work, pawn up for black. Fabi needs to get his knight into the game. This would be what I'm looking at. Maybe you can move the king out the way, f4, try and blow it open that way. Fabi, his time advantage now under 2 minutes and down a pawn.
This is looking amazing for Magnus, you know, whichever way you look at it. And he's just one move short of getting that king to safety. And then I just don't see how Fabi creates his chances. At some point, he needs to push the f-pawn forward. But your king is pinned on g1. You require so much time to make that happen as well.
Yeah. And chat rating Magnus as the clear favorite in this. 73% believes that Magnus was going to win this one.
Yeah, surprise board prediction by chat. Picking Magnus as favorite. You guys woke up on the wrong side of the bed, clearly.
Just impressed that 27% were voting for Fabi in the chat there. Either way, yeah, we'll see. I do feel that there will be twists and turns ahead. Armageddons we've seen this tournament, maybe other than Zhu and Jun winning one of them, I don't remember any one-sided Armageddons. They always came down to the wire. A few seconds here or there, nerves, blunders, tactics. Magnus now trades off the white knight. Very good practical decision before it landed on the f5 square. Now, 2 bishops versus 2 knights. Not for the first time we've seen today. And we did see a turnaround almost in the Gukesh game when he had the bishop pair. So Magnus hunting down the bishops now, but big mistake apparently. Bishop takes knight. Can Fabi pounce?
But what's the follow-up? Do you simply just double up on the D line, stopping Magnus from castling because rook d7 comes in?
You cannot capture with the queen.
f7's hanging. You have to take with the pawn.
Oh, wow. There's some big tactics Fabi needs to see. Bishop takes knight. I'm going to put this on the board very quickly while we keep the physical board up. Bishop takes knight. Black has to take with the pawn. You can't take with the queen as f7 would be hanging. Pawn takes. Rook to d3. After the black knight comes back to defend this square, bishop takes f7, check. The black queen takes. Rook to d8, check. Deflection. And if the black king just moves up the board, you continue deflecting. He doesn't play it. This would have been winning for white with the queen coming in. Let's go back to the game. This is the live position now. He traded the wrong bishop for that knight.
Huge miss. You just don't have the open lines that you now need for that activity. And Magnus needs only a draw in this position. He's up a pawn, healthy pawn formation. The king comes to safety. The knight rerouting itself. You can bring your rook into the game. One of the central lines. Yeah, what a miss that was by Fabi. And it didn't...
Difficult the last bit. You had to foresee maybe to get the first bit.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But just the idea that you stop Magnus from castling.
Yeah, the first move, I think, obvious. Second move, obvious. It was just the... Yeah, it was just... it's difficult. I think give him 5 extra minutes, Fabi, or even 3 extra minutes, he would have found that. And Magnus might have been in big trouble. But that was the first glimpse that this might not be so one-sided.
And now Magnus under 3.5 minutes as Fabi does set up some tactics with the potential e5 advance, trying to win the b7 pawn. Magnus puts a complete stop to that by planting his knight to c5, an attacker but also a defender of that b7 pawn.
Yeah, Fabi might have rushed that bit, those last few moves, just allowing this knight on c5. It's similar to Zhu and Jun's knight that we saw in the Armageddon earlier. It's so strong. He's going to put a pawn on b6 at some point. And any opening of the position, that black knight is just going to help enormously.
We're going to see e5 at some point, right, Jovanka?
Definitely. We have to see fire because Fabi is in a must-win scenario. A draw is as good as a loss. So questions are there for Fabi. Should he be going g4, g5 at the right time, just opening up the h-file? Should he himself be giving another pawn by going b6 and trying to break open some lines that way? Either way, he has to make some inroads. He has to cause trouble. He simply cannot let his clock run down.
I'm expecting e5, and I think he's setting it up. He doubles up on the e line.
Magnus, ooh, c6. That feels like he wants to clarify the position, maybe because of the clock. We saw Magnus look up. He was looking at the screen. For everyone at home who isn't familiar with Armageddon here, he was checking out the move number. This is move 28. He will get a 1 second increment in 12 moves time at move 40. That could be all important. to avoid getting flagged later on. And still 3 minutes for Magnus. It's like a blitz game, essentially, for both players at this point. Okay, Fabi needs to do something in the meantime. He's slowed down massively.
Yep. And the time difference between them has really narrowed. And there we see trade of pawns. And for Fabi, though, he has to continuously generate a way forward. And that's not easy.
He doubles up on the c file, once again renewing the threat that we've been talking about at the center of the board. And Magnus slides his queen across, lining it against the rook and the king. Watch out. Some knight jumps in the air. Knight takes pawn a threat.
Ooh.
Can you pick it? Can you go knight a4?
Yes, you can.
Rook is hanging on e3 and Magnus does it. Did Fabi miss this?
Might have missed this, Fabiano. He's going to move his rook. He will save his rook. It's not the end of the world. He will still have some compensation, but now down 2 whole pawns in a must-win situation. You've got to feel that Magnus has got to be able to give 1 up later, or 2 up, 2 back, just to kind of equalize, just to solidify, simplify the equation here.
Yeah, but simplifications are good news for Magnus because he just needs a draw. So once the rook moves, it's going to be back to the c5 square with the knight and back to Fabi as to how he's going to break open the position.
And both under 3 minutes, somehow Fabi has to find a way to get Magnus low on the clock. That's his only chance. You know, get him to think a little bit, keep all the pieces on the board, but it's Fabi who keeps thinking. He does move the rook. Magnus comes back to that spot. e5, it has to happen.
Yeah.
Been saying it for far too long.
He's been holding back for the last 10, 15 moves with this one, but it has to be here and now.
But get this, Fabi has less time on the clock than Magnus. Queen to c2, queen to f2. That is such a crafty move, threatening e5 and trying to exploit a pin.
He was getting out of the way of some knight e6, knight d4 jumps maybe, but now Magnus is going to move his queen or defend his queen, and the black knight will still be able to run away.
Okay, Magnus thinking, clock's completely level. He does defend the queen, so another way to unpin that problem. And is it now that we see the move? Because Fabi has to win. I think he's been holding on to the moment where Magnus has not enough time to deal with that move. But has he held on for far too long?
He won't have enough time to play this move if he doesn't go for it soon. Fabiano, 2 minutes left on the clock for him. Still 7 moves away from getting any increment. He's got to move. He's got to decide on something. Running out of ideas, running out of plans, 2 pawns down.
Running out of time.
Yep. Maybe he can just start to advance the g-pawn, try to initiate chaos. He attacks the rook.
Fabi blunders a 3rd pawn.
Oh my goodness, the queen on f2 is hanging. You can't pick up the rook, and if you take the queen, the rook recaptures, and Fabi knows it. This is out of his hand.
He delayed too long. He was indecisive. He was looking for other ideas when the main idea was his best shot. The white queen attacked the black rook that was under fire. Defending the black queen would have been able to save itself. Now Magnus will move this rook out the way anywhere, and he'll be 2 pawns to the good. Even if Fabi wins a5, as he does, the black queen comes in. This is the final stages.
And the queen and the knight, such a power duo right there. Fabi forced to trade to avoid checkmates. And Magnus Carlsen about to win this one.
How do you draw this against Magnus, let alone win it? Fabi fighting on.
The only way you draw it is that Magnus knows a draw is as good as win. So that's your only hope.
Forlorn hope here.
Magnus, look at the way he's just put that knight at the center of the board.
And all he has to do now, Magnus, is just solidify. He can more or less just keep passing, do nothing, and there is absolutely nothing that Fabi can do with such a material deficit.
And it looks like Magnus is a big favourite to win this one, or at least draw it, which will be enough in Armageddon. We can see on Fabi's body language that he is not feeling confident.